Welcome to the Vault XL. This commentary is Crime Vault, where I go back in time and review an older case with the said information. The commentary you're about to hear is from the babysitter who sat with the deceased children, Bella and Cece, the Saturday before they and their mother went missing and then later found deceased at an oil site. Hit that like button. Please go over to the community page to take the polls pertaining to this subject matter and other various topics. Thank you for joining me. This is Crime Vault, the Watts family murders, the babysitter's interview, and what was really going on in this home. The commentary you're about to hear is going to give you an insight into, I believe, a highly dysfunctional marriage and possibly baiting of children. So listen very carefully to the information, and then I will follow up with my commentary. Thank you for joining me.
So just so the recording knows, your dad is Jeremy?
Yes.
And Jeremy knows you're talking with me right
Yes.
now? Okay. So we're talking about Chris and Shanann Watts and some responsibilities you might have had for babysitting their children.
Yes.
So how long have you known Chris and Shanann?
My dad used to work with them, and I think I got to meet them when I was around 6 or 7 years old.
So Jeremy is your dad?
Yes.
And who did he work with?
He worked with both of them. They both worked at Longmont Ford. Shanann was a salesperson, and Chris was a mechanic.
Okay. Do you remember when that was?
I would say probably in 2013 or 14-ish. Is when they all worked there at the same time.
What did your dad do there?
He was an internet manager.
Does your dad still work at?
No, he works at Siltahar Motors now.
Works at Siltahar, okay, down in Boulder.
Yeah.
And do you know what Chris and Shanann do now?
Yes. Shanann advertises this thing called Drive, which is a patch you wear that gives you like energy boosts, I guess. And then Chris does the oil company where they drill in the ground to find oil. I think it's called Anadarko.
Anadarko,
Yeah.
so he works there.
Yes.
And Shanann, mainly work from home?
Yes.
Or does she travel or?
She travels for business when they have like conventions and stuff, and she posts on Facebook, and I think she advertises, and that's what her job is, to advertise for Thrive.
Okay, so she's an advertiser and he works in the oil industry. And so you think you've known them since 5 or 6 years?
Yeah.
So you babysit for them not on a regular basis or on a regular basis?
Not on a regular basis.
So how many times have you babysat for them?
Just once.
Once. And when was that?
Saturday night.
Okay, so today is the 14th. Monday is the 13th. Sunday is the 12th. So the 11th.
Yes.
Okay, so you babysat for them on Saturday. What time did you start babysitting?
4:30 p.m.
4:30 p.m.?
Yes.
And who asked you to babysit?
Chris had contacted my dad.
On what day?
Friday.
Do you know what time?
No, I do not know what time.
And he asked,
He asked if I could babysit their kids while he went to the Rockies game, and Shanann was out of town.
do you know who he was going to the Rockies game with?
He said something about how it was with his work or something from his work, because my dad was going to the Broncos game that night, and my dad had invited him to go to the Broncos game because he had an extra ticket, and he said he couldn't because this is something from work.
So friends or something from work?
Yeah.
Did you see, so what time, how did you get to his house? Did you babysit there or did he come here?
I went there, my mom dropped me off.
And that was on Saturday.
Yes.
Your mom, what's your mom's name?
Jennifer.
Lindstrom?
Yes.
Do you know your mom's birthday?
July 1st, 1981.
It's awesome. You know your mom's birthday. So Saturday, your mom drops you off. What time?
4:30.
Was anybody at the house?
Chris and his 2 daughters,
Okay. What are his daughters' names?
Celeste and Bella.
How old's Celeste?
She's 3 and Bella is 4.
Anybody else at the house besides those 3?
No.
So tell me what happens. Your mom drops you off. Does your mom come in with you?
No.
You just get out
Yeah.
and go in by yourself?
Yeah,
Okay. Do you have a cell phone?
I do.
What's your number?
720.
And your address is. So you go into the house. Chris, Celeste, and Bella are there. All right. And does Chris tell you what he wants you to do, or
Yeah.
tell me what Chris tells you? And you said, sorry, let me back up real quick. Shanann was not home; she was somewhere else.
Yes,
Where was she?
Arizona for her work.
And Chris told you that?
Yes, and I had seen posts on Facebook because I'm friends with Shanann.
Okay, so you knew,
Yeah.
but Chris told you the same.
Yes.
Okay. So just tell me your conversation with Chris when you show up.
I walked in and then he asked what kind of pizza I liked because he was gonna order me and the girls pizza for dinner. So he got on the phone and ordered them pizza. He gave them their medicine before he left because he didn't want me to have to worry about that. And they were already in their pajamas and he said I just have to play with them and then at 7 o'clock lay them down to go to bed. And he
Told you to put them down at 7 p.m.?
Yes. And he just showed me where their cameras were for their rooms and showed me how
What
to
kind of cameras?
they were like installed on the wall and there was like this little mini thing I could watch to make sure they were okay in their beds.
So like a little television you were watching and you could see the kids?
Yeah, it was like a handheld and it switched back from each room.
Was that part of their video surveillance or was it separate?
I think it was separate. And then
Do you know if that recorded or was it just live?
I think it was just live.
Okay.
And then he gave me a cell phone number just in case I needed
Do
anything.
you remember what that is?
No, it was on the counter and I didn't need it. And then Shanann was texting me and she was like, "Are the girls okay?" I'm like, "Yeah, they're fine."
So Shanann knew you were there too.
Yes, she called
Did
me.
Chris ever text you?
No.
So Shanann knew you were there because Chris told her,
Yeah.
or did you tell her?
I think Chris told her.
So how did Chris leave the house? Well, so did he run you through these instructions? Do you recall what the girls were wearing?
Yes, they were wearing 2 nightgowns and actually a police officer came over today and they had pictures and they told me to pick out which ones they were wearing.
So they went through that with you. Can you just describe them, what they were wearing, if you remember?
They were 2 nightgowns and I think one was blue and they just had like little kid like stars and hearts and sparkles and stuff on them.
Okay.
And I think the other one was like a peach color.
Okay. Remember what was on that one?
What's that?
Do you remember what was on that one?
They were kind of similar. It's still like the stars and the hearts. And I have a
Remember what-
picture of what Cece was wearing.
Did you take a picture of her that night?
Chris took the picture, I'm pretty sure.
On your phone?
No, he posted it on Facebook, or Shanann posted it because he was sending them pictures of the girls when she was checking in on them.
Okay, tell me how somebody got a picture of the girls that night.
I'm pretty sure it was taken on Chris's phone, and then I'm guessing he sent it to her, and then she had posted it on Facebook, so that's how I saw it.
Prior to him leaving for the game?
I can check when she posted it
Okay.
because I noticed that was the same exact thing she was wearing when I came over to watch them. Yeah, she posted it on Saturday at 10:30 at night. So, and that's the night I babysat.
Can I see that picture?
Yes. That's the youngest one, Celeste, but she goes by Cece too.
You don't mind if I take a picture?
Go ahead. Is it bad lighting?
So she posted that Saturday, and that's the clothing that Celeste was wearing.
Yes.
The night that you babysat for them. So do you think that's prior? What time did you babysit? You got there at 4:30?
Yeah.
Or did you leave?
Around 10:30.
Were the kids sleeping?
Yes. So I'm guessing that was before I came because it's like.
Just making some notes, just a second. So you did not send that picture to Shanann.
Mm-mm.
Chris must have.
Yes.
Do you remember what Chris was wearing when he left?
A white t-shirt and darkish, almost black jeans.
Do you remember if the t-shirt had anything on it?
No, I think it was plain.
Do you remember his shoes?
No.
Was he wearing a jacket, anything else?
Mm-mm.
Does he wear glasses?
Yeah, he usually doesn't, but when he left, I'm pretty sure he was wearing his glasses.
Like reading glasses or sunglasses?
Reading glasses.
And he left your phone number to reach him?
Mhm.
Do you know what that, again, you said it was just written down on the counter? It was written on a note?
Yeah.
Okay. Do you know who he left with?
No.
Did you see the vehicle or the car that he left in?
No, he told me to go distract the kids while he left so they didn't get upset that he was leaving.
Did you hear a car?
No.
Did he take his own truck or did you think he left with somebody?
I'm not sure because his work truck was parked in front of the house and I never looked in the garage or anything to see if any vehicles.
Did the work truck ever leave?
No.
What's his work truck look like?
It's big and brown and it has like a bunch of mechanical stuff on the back of it. It looks like for the oil fields.
Does it have any markings on it?
No.
Does it say the name of the business?
No, it's blank. So I remember the girls kept pointing it out because they're like, that's my daddy's truck.
So the girls are 3 and 4, but they talk with you a lot?
Yes, they're very
They're
talkative.
very talkative?
Yes.
Okay. So did they tell you anything that was happening? Was there anything that was concerning that you heard?
Bella she sat by me and she was really concerned. Her little sister fell asleep before her, so she sat on the couch with me for a while. And she actually told me something. She's like, "Can I ask you something?" And I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "My little sister she told me if she eats coconut, she'll never be able to see her again." So I'm guessing that the littlest one has a severe allergy, and that's what they told her, that if she eats that, she'll never be able to see her again. And she was really upset by that.
Bella was?
Yeah.
And so if CC ate coconut, she would potentially
Yeah,
die.
I know she has a tree nut allergy, but I never heard coconut. So I wonder if they just, I don't know if she got COVID.
So Cece has a tree nut allergy?
Yeah, like a severe one.
Okay. So you watch the children. He leaves about, you get there at 4:30? What time do you think he leaves?
Probably 4:45 after we've like gone through everything, and he orders the pizza for us.
Where was the pizza from?
Papa John's, I think.
Okay. And he leaves about 4:45. You didn't see who he left with.
Mm-mm.
Okay. You watch the kids. Any phone calls? Do you see anything out of place at the house? Is anything weird?
It seemed normal. They all were acting normal. The kids were having fun. The house seemed fine.
Okay. And you put the girls down at 7.
Yeah.
And then what time does Chris come back?
Around 10:30.
Anybody else in the house while you're there? Just you and the 2 girls?
Yeah, my mom was waiting outside to pick me up
What
because
time?
he told me 10, so my mom came at 10, but when he came home, he said he had gotten stuck in some traffic, which was understandable.
And your mom was there to pick you up?
Yeah, she was waiting outside the house in her car.
She's waiting in her car?
Yeah.
He gets home at 10:30, and he was at the Rockies game, right?
Yes.
That's where he said he was going?
Yes.
Did he mention anything that happened, or
He just gave me the money and I left.
he didn't tell you? You said you got stuck in traffic.
Yeah.
Was he wearing the same clothing?
Yes.
And you didn't ever see who he came back with?
No, my mom saw him come home, so
Your mom
I
did?
bet if you ask her.
All right, that's the end of that commentary. Thank you for joining me. One moment, please. Thank you. Welcome to the Crime Vault. Thank you so much for joining me. If you'd like to donate to this great network, $BigAngie129, Cash App, stickers, and checks are welcome during this live stream. For those of you who follow my content, I repeat a lot of things randomly and on purpose, and a lot, such as always pay attention to the details. I say this for a reason, because hindsight is 2020. This interview with this young lady is telling. And if you paid attention to what she said during this interview pertaining to the household, the father, the children, the children's conversation, you can learn what was wrong with this family in just this short video of 18 minutes. And I always like for people to point it out so I don't have to say it. That's why the title at the end says what was really going on in this home. Let's dissect what was said in this 18-minute commentary. I'm sure it took longer, but this is what was put in the YouTube queue. And we also will go over my polls after I give my commentary. Thank you for joining me. This young lady was called in by Chris to babysit the 2 children, Bella and Cece. She got there around 4:30. Everything seemed normal in the household. The father ordered pizza for the children and this young lady, young girl. They obviously had a schedule, the parents, to put their children to bed by 7, which is noble because many people don't have a schedule for their toddler children. That's why the toddlers are always running around at odd times at night and up. And I've always said this, children need to be on a schedule. So these children were on a schedule. Okay? She's asked what the children were wearing. She describes what the children were wearing to this detective. He asked her many questions pertaining to this Saturday night. It is under the guise that Chris left the house to go to a Rockies game. She is asked about how he left. She did not see. He made her go up to tend to the children, as so they wouldn't cry to see him leave. Is that true? Did the children normally cry when one of the parents left the house? So you have to ask all those questions, because this gives you a basis of who these people were, how they navigated. Okay? Did the children normally cry if one or both parents left their eyesight? Were they easily managed, the children? You never heard that the children were disruptive or got out of character. I'm sure the girl would have mentioned it, or maybe the detective would have asked. Did he ask how the children behaved during this visit? I don't know. But did they behave decent when in the care of other people? How many times did they leave their children unattended with a babysitter? We also hear during this commentary, she's only been used this one time. Why this one time? How did he leave the house? She was asked. She didn't know, because as I said, he told her to go tend to the children so he could leave out. Did he leave out and get in a car with somebody else? Number one. Did he take Shanann's car? Because my understanding, she got dropped off that fateful morning, days later on that Monday. She got dropped off by her friend. So that would leave me to be her car was left in the garage. The young lady said she never checked the garage. So number one, how did Chris leave this home? Did he walk out to a car? Did he walk down the street and get in a car? Stay woke. Did he really go to the Rockies game? Was this actually a work field trip, let's say? Her father asked him to go to a Broncos game because he had another ticket, but Chris said he already had plans, work plans. So was that the truth? That one, he had work plans. Two, he left out on foot and got into his wife's car or somebody else's car. If he got picked up, whose car did he get into? Or did, as I said, walk down the street and got into a car he didn't want someone to see? How many visitors have come to this house in the past couple of months before this crime took place? See, all that's relevant. You never hear anything mentioned. I haven't, because I didn't follow the story verbatim. So if there's anything of use pertaining to this, what I'm saying, this live stream, feel free to drop it below in the video. How many visitors came to the house? Did the mistress ever come to the house, Nicole Kessinger? Because she goes back and forth on that during interrogation. Did he have a date with her on this Saturday? Did she pick him up? Who picked him up? Or did he, as I said, drove the wife's car, walked down the street, got in a car, or what? Called public transportation, Uber, Lyft? Did Chris Watts actually go to a Rockies game? Was that ever mentioned during court, or was it even relevant during court proceedings at the time of his trial pertaining to that evening? Because naturally they want to know what happened the day of, leading up to. So maybe Saturday's events doesn't count. But we're going to get to why I played this audio for you, why I say it counts, to show you how these people were navigating with their children. Once again, the children on a schedule. The children have cameras in their rooms so they can be watched. That's going to be relevant as well during this live stream. First time this young lady has ever kept these children. So when the parents went to different events, the wife traveled. He went somewhere else. Did they ever use somebody else as a babysitter? I'm curious. Did they have cameras throughout the house, garage, outside of the house? Did this family have cameras outside of the house, in the garage, and in any other rooms besides the children's rooms? Because that's going to be relevant, or would have been relevant at the time of the investigation, to show who actually harmed the children. And if they did have cameras working, did it show this woman murdering her children? as Chris told his father in the interrogation room. Because the cameras would have told the story as well if they had cameras. And the fact that he says he went down and killed his wife after he saw her on the monitor choking one of the children and one was blue, I asked that question, well, were the lights on, lights off? And if you never heard the defense mention that during trial, okay, stay woke now. Oh, yeah, we see her choking the child, choking the children. I don't think that was ever mentioned because it was not true. So once again, if you have cameras inside of a child's room, children's room, wouldn't you have cameras outside to show who's coming and going, cars passing on the street, people walking by? This would also show who's been to the house recently. Stay woke. The truck never left the driveway, the young lady says, and she never checked the garage to see if any other cars were in the garage. So once again, was the wife's car in the garage? I've heard no mention of that so far in my searching of information pertaining to this storyline. Did he kill these kids before the 13th? Did that ever cross any of you all's minds? Because there's so many questions you can ask pertaining to the storyline of Chris Watts, his wife, and his children, and this mistress, Miss Kessinger. Did he murder the children? Because the detective asked this young lady what the children were wearing. So now I'm going to ask that question. When the children were discovered, pulled out of that oil tank, did they have on the same night clothes that this girl described? And if so, one could ask, how long do they allow their children to wear the same night clothes? 2 days, 3 days, a week? Because children don't sweat as bad as adults. So they wouldn't have to have their night clothes changed often. So I'm curious to that. But the truck is seen on the 13th, so we can use deduction. That is the day he took the children out into the truck and the wife. But it does not mean the children could have already been deceased, murdered before the 13th. Stay woke. The fact that the older child, sorry about the background noise. Mercy. Bad neighbors. The older child, Bella, was concerned about the younger child. This is what's baffling to me in this conversation, disturbing rather. She's holding this conversation with the babysitter. The babysitter says that the children were talkative. So that means the children are aware of their faculties and can see and hear. And some of you've mentioned, maybe that's one of the reasons he murdered the children, is because the children are aware and they're in tune to their emotions and what they can see and hear and repeat. But as I said, I believe this was a plan well into motion, well thought out, let's say, before meeting Miss Kessinger. I do believe that. But anything is possible because we don't know. And due to the fact that this man has changed his version so many times, you're never going to get the truth about his relationship with his wife, his kids, and what actually happened on the 13th. Back to Bella. If you listen carefully, she tells this young lady that she's concerned about her sister because, one, she fell asleep before her, and she's worried about her getting sick because she has a bad allergy to nuts. Tree nuts is what the young lady mentions. She said, I didn't know anything about coconuts, but that's the point. A nut's a nut. It doesn't matter. So was the young girl allergic to coconuts? Why was this child so concerned? The fact that the child says that she could leave, which means die, is very bothersome to me. Why would a child be discussing this in a conversation, period, to anybody? Oh, I'm worried about her going to bed early. I'm worried about her eating this or this because she could die. Who put that notion in a child's head? It can't be but the deceased mother and or Chris Watts. And we learned that there was a lot of tension between his family and his wife. And this is one of the issues. I believe the grandmother rather, gave one of the children products that had peanuts in it. And the child broke out or had a bad reaction. So that started this rift, if I'm not mistaken, between the parties. She didn't feel like, obviously, the woman was responsible. So what you have to ask yourself, did she tell the lady, do not feed them any type of peanuts? And the grandmother did it anyway, or served them something that was served on a peanut factory machine or whatever, because that happens. And a lot of things on the back of packages, a lot of the ingredients on the back of packages will say, oh, this product was manufactured on a such and such where peanuts were made. So it could be just an issue of cross-contamination. But this is bothersome to me. And I'm not here to blame this woman, because as I told you, there was no excuse for him murdering his family, period. He could have easily walked away, but I think it's because he did not want to be obligated. He did not want to be bothered anymore. They were a package deal. They all evenly yoked together. So he wanted out. Because it's easy for me to say, well, he should have just walked away. He should have just divorced her. No, he knew he worked. He was going to always work. He was going to be liable for payments to she and those kids. Bottom line. Depending on how long they were married, depending on his salary versus her salary, he was obligated to the children, if not anybody else. But this commentary of this child being so concerned about her sister being unalive from eating nut products is very disturbing to me, because this shows me that this has been a conversation in their household. And death had to have been mentioned. And what are the odds that a child is concerned about her baby sister falling asleep before her, worried about her getting sick from a peanut allergy, and she dies 2 days later? That's very ironic. Now, it's not to say the father laid anything out for this girl to give to the kids, because she said it was about 4:45 before he left, because he had to go over everything for her to do at the house. But it's just strange. A child is talking about death on a Saturday and ends up dead 2 days later, she and her sibling and their mother. You don't find that strange? I find it very strange. This was a very bad marriage. A lot of family dynamics. All parties, grandparents, parents, children, there was dysfunction, because that comment from Bella told me everything I needed to know about this family. That there was grown folks talk about food products, death, which I don't think you should be having these conversations with a 3 and a 4-year-old. You're entitled to talk to your children about whatever you want, but a child should not be worrying about another child passing away because they ate something with peanuts in it or nuts in it. What you would say is, make sure she doesn't eat this because she has an allergy. But why in the world would you say she'll die? That's not something you should even be saying to a child. That's why I know the mother and or Chris or both have said something to these children about Cece dying from eating peanuts. And that's not good. That's not good at all. So this leads me to believe there was a whole lot going on in this household. This is why I said this is not about Nicole Kessinger. whether you believe that or not. She played a role in this man's life as far as being involved with him. But you don't have a receipt. She ate it, killed these kids, was in the house, went to the house, helped dispose of bodies. None of that. Please check out my content on that from 2 days ago about Nicole Kessinger. These people were dysfunctional long before she came along and entered this man's life. Because that comment from the child tells the story. So he was gone for about, less than 6 hours. Where did he go? Who was he with? Is it relevant? Well, naturally, people say everything's relevant when you're talking about true crime. So did he go to the game? Did he meet up with somebody else? How did he leave the house? Picked up, walked down the street? And how foolish would it be to pick him up as a mistress or somebody else, a woman, knowing people have cameras, neighbors have cameras. He has to have known his neighbor had a camera. So it made no sense when we heard that the mistress had been to the house. So you didn't care about her being seen. She didn't care about being seen. She didn't care about going to someone's house. So what was the truth? Did she ever go in that house? I don't know. Any other women go in the house? I don't know. And then as they say, why lie about it? How many visitors came to that house before the 13th of August? Chris took pictures of the children, sent it to Shanann's phone. She posted around 10:30 to Facebook. You hear this via the babysitter. Did she normally complain about her life on Facebook? Or did she only show what to be assumed was a happy life? Did she only complain in private, Shanann, to her friends, family? Because I can't see she'd want people to know that her husband was detached from her and the children, and that both were not getting along. That's not something some people want to tell others on live streams. So did she ever complain about her marriage to her husband on Facebook? Or she only showed the happy times or what appeared to be happy times? Did she post too much? Did he object? Did he ever say something to her about posting to Facebook? Going live often? If he did say something to her, what was her response? Did she say, well, I don't care. I like going live. I like posting things. I find it strange she posts these pictures to Facebook. Why? Was it a security issue why he took pictures of the children to show that he did call in a babysitter? The babysitter was there. He wasn't leaving them alone unattended. All that's strange to me. This is why I always say you have to pay attention to the details. Strange to me, a child talking about dying, another sibling dying from eating peanut products. He's taking pictures of the children, sending them to her. She gets the pictures and posts them to Facebook around 10:30 or so. Same time he's coming home. Why? Why do you need to post those pictures of the kids to Facebook? I'm curious. What was the point? She can't tell us because she's dead. But I'm curious to why Shanann needed to post the pictures. It's a private moment. They're in the PJs. They're going to bed, blah, blah, blah. Why do you need to post these pictures? I believe that was part of their problem as well in their marriage. Her posting too much to Facebook. Going live excessively. Was it necessary? Because as I said, everything has a rhyme and a reason to it. Doesn't have to make sense to me. Doesn't have to make sense to you. But there's a rhyme and a reason. I'd like to know, did she ever see any signs that this man was unglued, coming unglued? Maybe not. You hear a neighbor say that he heard them arguing outside. Don't know how many times that took place. But that shows you they were unraveling. So now we're lashing out outside and not on the inside where people not hear us. And most people like to keep things private. And I can see Chris being that type of guy, not wanting anyone on the outside to know what's going on in his marriage in that household. We learned that they had debts behind in their mortgages, their mortgage. Why? Both of you work. So why would you be behind in your mortgage payments? So where was the money going? See, there was a lot to this story. And I believe the wife was resentful of his parents or his mother because of this food allergy business, child or children getting sick in her care. And everybody knows it takes one thing to beget another. Maybe she didn't feel like he protected her against his parents. Because a lot of times when people are quiet and shy, they don't speak up for their spouse. And that is your job because you are married to that person. So did they have other issues with one another, Shanann and his parents? Did he have problems with her parents? You learn all of this in the Netflix documentary. When she went to North Carolina to visit her family, her texting this man, and he's very mediocre in his conversations. Cut, dry. You don't see anything that looks subversive, threatening, mean-spirited, because he held everything in. And you'll hear him talk about that in his prison tapes that are in the YouTube queue, which I don't care for those tapes because the people interviewing him, all they're doing is laughing and giggling the whole time, which is very bizarre to me because I don't find anything funny in sitting across the table from a person who's murdered 4 people. And they were his family members. Did he resent his wife posting to social media? Did he object? What was her response? This was a dysfunctional family. And I believe the wife tried to make people in the public think that her marriage was good, that she was happy. She probably was still trying to portray herself as a happy-go-lucky person despite not having the relationship that she wanted with her husband. I don't know if he ever told her that he didn't want to be with her, that he wanted a divorce, wanted to separate. I don't know, because you can't believe half of the things that have come out of Chris Watts' mouth. And naturally, she wouldn't tell people on Facebook, my husband wants to divorce me, leave me, because that would probably put a stain on her look on social media. And that's the whole thing about social media. Just because somebody posts a picture smiling, having a drink on the beach, doesn't mean they don't have problems. They're just focusing on something else at that time of the post. But it doesn't mean that they are completely happy, completely content with their life. And we've learned this from hearing such dirty business about people in general. But that comment from the baby girl bothers me, that perhaps Shanann dwelled on negative things inside of the home and her children were in earshot or told directly things that they should not have been told. And no child should be talking about death at the age of 4. For what reason? Now, I know at some point you're going to have to talk to your children about death, sickness, illness. But in the context of one child has an allergy and, she may die. She won't be here, rather, as the child said. She won't be here. That leads me to believe Shanann or the husband or both were telling these children this. She eats this, she will die. Point blank. She won't be around. Who says that to a child? I believe this man was frustrated with his wife. Financial problems, other issues, family issues, no trust, no loyalty. Maybe he wasn't taking up for her the way she wanted. Maybe he was too easygoing. Maybe she wanted someone more assertive. And when you go back and watch some of the videos, many people are commenting below the videos that he seemed to be just going along for the ride in these videos. Just riding the ride. But he's not the first and he won't be the last, because a lot of people do ride the ride. Many people ride the ride even if there is no murder. You just go along with the flow. The person pulls out the camera. No, you're not really in a camera mood, but you don't say anything. You don't want somebody to keep taking pictures of you every 5 seconds, but you don't say anything because you don't want to disappoint the person. And that's what Chris said about Shanann. I didn't want to disappoint her. I was afraid of doing something wrong. So now you have to ask that question. Was she highly critical of her children, her husband, their lifestyle, their goals, where she wanted to go? Were their expectations not met by either party? Were both disgusted, disgruntled with the other person's demeanor, actions? Because this man checked out. And he checked out, I think, long before Miss Kessinger came into the picture. That's obvious. That's why I said, when you listen to this interview and this girl is talking about Bella and her commentary about the younger sister not being around from eating peanuts, that shows me what has been going on in their house. They have been talking grown folks talk in front of children and directly to children when they shouldn't have been doing that. That's my opinion. What you say to a child is this: make sure your sister doesn't eat any peanuts or any type of nut product because she can become very sick and we wouldn't want her to get sick. That's what you would say to a child, because you have to talk to a child in a certain way. How you talk to an adult is not how you talk to a child. How you talk to a teenager isn't how you would talk to a child. They're toddlers. So you can't hold a full-grown conversation with a toddler as if they are an adult. He was unhappy with her. And as I said, the children are part of the deal. They were a package. He wanted out. And I think that's the only thing that he's possibly told the truth to that inmate at the prison. He said he didn't want to pay child support. He didn't want to be responsible. And if he didn't tell the inmate that, I believe that. That's the purpose of killing everybody. I don't want to be obligated. They were an obligation. They were his children, his wife. And if he didn't want that third child, he should have told his wife that. You need to take birth control pills. If we're going to have sex, don't use condoms. You're going to have to be on something. I do not want another child. Now we have to ask, did he ever tell his wife he did not want a third child? You see him walking in. She's showing the pregnancy test. What was he supposed to say? And she's filming him. Don't you find that video odd? Almost like it could have been rehearsed. How do you know what time he was going to walk through the door? Did she call him? Hey, where you at? Oh, I'm in the driveway. I'm pulling up. Okay. So then she pulls out her phone. This will make a great moment for Facebook. Let everybody here see his reaction that I'm pregnant. Of course. Lots of people like surprises. Hey, let's see what's getting ready to happen. But he sees the camera there. How is he supposed to react? How is he supposed to react? You're what? We can't afford another kid. Are you crazy? Boom, boom, boom. Snatch the phone out of her hand. Was he supposed to do that? Of course not. He wasn't getting ready to tell his true feelings on a Facebook Live. And I think that's what she did often. She reveled in going live. She liked going live. She liked to be seen, possibly an attention seeker. And this is not to talk bad about her, but this is known by many people on social media. They have to talk excessively on the internet. They have to go live on IG. They have to go live on Facebook. They have to go live on YouTube. They got to show what they're eating. They have to show them going to the bathroom. They got to show them brushing their teeth. They got to show them open the refrigerator door. They got to film the dog. They got to film the dog across the street barking. They've got to show the children waking up. It's not necessary. And you'll hear people around you when you're going live, they'll say, don't film me, don't show me. And out of respect, you shouldn't if they ask you not to. I think she was looking for something. Her parents say she's a very happy person, happy-go-lucky. The children were happy. You hear this, the father reading this at the sentencing of Mr. Watts. But everything does not have to play out on social media. Do you believe this woman drove Chris to murder? And one thing begat another. There are issues of finances, spending too much money. As I said, I don't excuse anyone murdering someone, period, unless it's in self-defense. But did she push this man over the top to where he blanked out, didn't want to be married anymore, didn't want to be obligated to pay for her and those kids? Because even if they had divorced, common sense, she would ask for alimony and child support. That's common sense. But then the flip side could be, she'd say, no, I don't need any child support. You know what you're supposed to do for these kids. I'll just call you when I need money. But we know she couldn't have stayed in that house. And you hear, allegedly, that's what he told Miss Kessinger, or that's what she told the detectives. I don't know if that's true or not. That they were selling the house, he was separating from her. Were those allegations true? They were separating and they were going to sell the house. Because common sense would tell anybody at some point that was going to happen had he not murdered his family, because they obviously could not afford the mortgage. Why not? Both of them were working. Why could they not afford their mortgage? So where was the money going? What was she doing with her money? What was he doing with his money? So when you say they were behind on their mortgage several months, a few months, then you'd have to ask, well, damn, were they paying the gas bill, the light bill? Did they keep food in the refrigerator? Where was the money going? He told this Kessinger lady he wanted a ranch-style house, not a big house. His wife wanted the big house. Was that statement true? Did he tell Nicole Kessinger that? See, you'll never know the truth because he's changed his version so many times. And when we go back to this conversation with this babysitter about monitors and handheld devices to watch the children, this would have been a way for Chris to prove that his wife did kill the kids. If you have a camera in the children's room, then it would have shown your wife harming the kids, and that would have been introduced into court as evidence for the defense, Chris Watts. And I have not heard ever that there was evidentiary material showing the wife murdered her two girls. So obviously she did not. And that was the concern of her family, that would be her legacy, her memory, an ugly memory of their child, murdering the children per the version from Chris Watts. And I think most of us know this lady did not murder her children because he's changed the version from the wife killed the kids. Nicole was involved. He did it because he saw the wife kill the kids, kill her. He killed her because she killed the kids. Then the inmate comes forward and says, oh, he said he wasn't even there. He was set up. And then before that version to the inmate, it was, oh, I did it because I didn't want to pay child support. Financial reasons why I killed my wife, my kids. Allegations that only two photos of the children are up on the wall in his prison cell at that time, but none of the wife. Why not? Because as I said, that's who he hated. I would say that's who he hated the most, was his wife. And naturally, the children are collateral damage because, as I said, they are a package deal. You can't have one without the other. You kill one, you got to kill them all. Because he didn't want to be a husband. He didn't want to be a father. So it was a package deal. And no matter who he met in life, had he was able to even get away with this crime, let's say there was nobody to come around and inquire about Shanann and the kids. Because you do have people who aren't close to their families. They don't have a lot of friends. And they could easily get missing, murdered, and nobody would come a knocking. Just imagine had he gotten away with it. As I said before in my commentary 2 days ago, he is still the same guy. He's still the guy who thought killing his family was the solution to his problems. So he would do it again. And if you could easily be pushed into murdering someone for whatever reason, financial, you don't get along, you're not attracted to them anymore, whatever the reasons were, that is still you. So that's why I said it wouldn't have mattered who he was married to, who he had an affair with. He is still the same guy who is a sociopath. He's locked inside of his own emotions. I'm supposed to believe what? Had he met another young lady, he still wouldn't have been the same Chris Watts. He still would have been an introvert. Because his wife was outgoing. So one could say, well, why didn't that rub off on him? Why didn't he try to be more outgoing? So he got with a quiet girl, quiet lady. It's still not, it doesn't matter, I don't think. Because they still could have had problems. And as I said, if you can easily think to murder someone because you do not want to be obligated to them, what difference would it make who the wife was, who the mistress was? You are the same person. And your thought process, 9 times out of 10, would possibly been the same if he had married a shy woman. And somewhere down the road, they had problems. You're still the same Chris Watts. That's the point of the story. Can you be pushed, driven to murder? Possibly. People have done it. Crime of passion, as we've heard used a lot of times in court. Temporarily insane. Just popped off. As they said, judge would say. You came in and saw your wife, husband, somebody in the bed with somebody. You just went ballistic. Grabbed a gun, a knife, a lamp. Start beating the person to death. Shot him. You're overwhelmed. But they don't believe that was the case here, due to the fact that the woman had just arrived home from a business trip in the wee hour. 9 times out of 10, she was tired, wanted to sleep. And this is why I posed this question to you all the other day. Were the children already dead when Shanann came home? So you don't know. Because I have not heard about the autopsy and how long they believe the children were inside. Not how long they were in there, but how long they were deceased before getting into the tank. Has that been mentioned? Time of death. Are there any reports that the children were dead longer than the time found inside of the oil tank? That's very relevant. I think it's interesting that this young lady was a babysitter only one time, because we learned that the mother traveled on occasion. Don't know how often she traveled. So who did they use for a babysitter when they wanted to go out on a date night, go somewhere together? Did they have date nights? Did they regularly go out together to the movies, out to dinner, and needed a babysitter? If so, how often? And how ironic, as I said, that this young lady is talking to a detective about her Saturday night keeping the children. And the daughter's conversation, Bella, is worrying about her sister being unalive from eating peanuts. And yet the little girl dies by the hands of her own father 2 days later. You can't make this stuff up. It was as if the universe was talking to a child. Well, sweetheart, you're not going to be here 2 days from now. And it won't be because Cece ate something with peanuts in it or cross-contamination of peanuts. Your father is going to snuff you out and drive you to his work site and dump you in an oil tank. And your mother's going to be also buried feet away from the tank. I'm sure that was not explained to the child before they were murdered, the children rather. This is a very creepy story. I did not keep up with this Watts story when it transpired, all the details of who said what, interrogations, but going back now, getting a little bit of information pertaining to these parties, this information here was possibly the most damaging, and it shows that these people were dysfunctional and that they had issues with one another. Because no child should be talking about death at the age of 4. Somebody had put that in that child's head, that her baby sister could die from eating peanuts. And I think the wife dwelled on that issue of the mother, of the grandmother, Chris's mother, feeding the children nuts, and she never let that go. And she probably beat it into her children, literally, verbally rather, and also to her husband, Chris. You don't care. She don't care. Nobody cares about my kids. So now imagine if a child is holding this type of conversation with a complete stranger, imagine the conversations that took place in the house. Imagine what this woman was saying to her children about the grandparents, the father. Did she ever talk negative about Chris to the children? They seemed to care for their father, love their father, revered him in a high manner. And children will love their parents no matter what is said about them negatively. I think most of you know this. The children just don't turn on their parents because another parent is disgusted with them or angry with them or don't like them. Separate, divorce. Because children are resilient. They have a lot of fight in them. They put up with a lot. They're tolerable. They tolerate a lot. And I think most of you know that from being a child. And now as an adult, you probably don't want to tolerate half of the things that come your way. But as a child, you didn't have a choice. I think Shanann talked negatively to these children about the grandparents, possibly Chris, and I think it wore him down. Whatever issues they had with one another, his parents and her, their finances, her spending habits. But as I said, because I want to make this clear, there was still no reason to murder these people because he chose them. He chose to get married. He chose to have children. And at any point in his marriage, he saw that they could not afford their lifestyle. He wasn't in agreement to spending the money on their lifestyle. He should have said something because by right, he is the man, he is the father, the husband, and he has every right to speak his mind. And murdering someone is not the solution. So as he sits in his prison cell, he finally got what he wanted, which was freedom, no chance of parole, never been able to walk free outside of that gate. That's what he forfeited by killing his family. He got out, but he didn't get to walk free. But that was his choice. And it's shameful to think a person would murder their family and friends or whomever just so they don't have to pay a debt or an obligation. But it happens every day. Spouses kill each other for insurance money, friends, strangers to get insurance money, Social Security checks, disability checks, guardianship, guarding over estates. It happens every day. People being murdered for money. Covering up a fraud, a theft. One story, a man, I believe a woman killed her husband because she didn't want him to see that she had been writing bad checks. Who kills their husband because you bounced some checks? Even if the checks were a lot, 30,000, 20,000, you would plot to kill your own husband because you didn't want him to find out. But this is the mindset you have. So this shows you these people do not know how to navigate on the earth properly. They do not know how to rationalize their emotions. They do not know how to just tell a person, hey, I messed up. I made a mistake. Please forgive me. I won't do it again. No, I'll just kill her, him or her. Be done with it. And I ain't got to worry about it. And even in the end, Chris was still obligated to a bank loan, I'm sure, had he divorced this woman. Because your name is on the documents that you sign up for a house. Most people get bank loans. So you're still obligated. Number two, car notes. Same thing. If it ever had to be repossessed, you still owe the money on the loan for the car. So did they even own their cars? Number three, did they owe any back taxes? You still would be obligated. Had you gotten away with the crime, his name is still on the dotted line. And that's why you know he didn't plan this crime out thoroughly. Because if you're in a hole $60,000, $70,000 for not paying your rent and homeowner association fees, you are still liable for that money with or without Shanann and your kids. You still owe a debt. But he knew a third child would be too much to bear. And I think he just didn't want to continue to take care of the children, the wife. He didn't want to have to deal with any more debt, accrued debt. I'll nip it in the bud right here. That's why I said these people were dysfunctional and had marital woes way before this woman walked on the scene. She was just the icing on the cake. You're entitled to your opinion of what drove this man to kill his family. But he did not know this woman but 2 months. And no way in my mind I would think either was that head over heels for the other one to slough off a family, help a man kill his family, think you're going to marry this man after 2 months of knowing him. No way. Have people divorced and went on in a new relationship shortly after divorcing? Of course. Marrying somebody else? Of course. But that's the gist of this story. Had everything been different, he got with this lady. She dated him. They married shortly after his divorce from Shanann. This woman wanted a family. He did not. So what would be the difference between getting this mistress pregnant and then walking off from this family here? A child's a child. An obligation is an obligation. And that's what he did not see. She didn't know the real reason of what was really going on, plural, in his life with Shanann, Miss Kessinger. But she would have been walking into the lion's den by getting hooked up with him. Because as I said before, when you remove Shanann, remove the children, remove Miss Kessinger, Chris Watts is Chris Watts. His thought process would have been the same, no matter who he met, who he dated, slept with, married, made children. He would have been going down the same road again. Had he gotten away with this crime, had he divorced his wife, he would have still been the same Chris Watts. Thank you for joining me. I'll be back with live number 2 pertaining to Brian Kohlberger. Please stay tuned to that next live stream. Like, share, subscribe. Please go to my community board for said updates. Take the polls. Give me your commentary on the polls and updated stories. And the man who exacted the massacre on the East Coast, Maine, as most of you know, he was found deceased by a gunshot wound. And also the young man who was on the run in Nashville, Tennessee for shooting at 2 officers after being in a stolen car and then carjacking another young lady. He was also found deceased in a shed. He killed himself. Let's go over the polls before I check out of here. Thank you for joining me. All right, everybody. Did Shanann Watts drive Chris to madness to kill her and children? Yes, 4%. No, 92%. Not sure, 4%. 48 votes. One person has commented. Go Runner replies, no, he's a mindless bot who is not capable of thinking for himself. That's what makes him so dangerous. I don't know if I understand that comment. It has been 5 years since Chris Watts killed his family. He finally got what he wanted, freedom, but not only by way of a prison cell serving life without parole. I meant to say but only, excuse me. Is he remorseful for his crime? 10% says yes. 83% says no. 7% says not sure. 30 votes. Someone else has commented. Raymond Girl says, only remorseful he didn't get away with it. If he had, he'd be perfectly content and living happily ever after. On my community board, I also posted Denver 7's content of his sentencing at the time. And he's looking down while her father was speaking, Shanann's father. And at one point, looking at him, you could think possibly he felt shame, remorse, sorrow for killing his family. So is he remorseful? Does he wish he could go back and redo his life? Possibly deal with what was going on with his family and or bail out, but without murdering them? Does he have any regrets in marrying Shanann? Regrets in having children? Will we ever hear the truth of what happened at that house? What it was like being married to this woman and the children? His inadequacies in life? His disposition at the time of the crime? And what he would have done differently? Or would he have done it the same way if he had a chance to go back? Will we ever get the truth from Chris Watts? Do you think Nicole Kessinger is in the witness protection program? 51% says yes, 49% says no, 45 votes. Do you think Nicole Kessinger knew of plot to murder Watts' family, conspired and or helped Chris in any way? She only knew of the plot, 38%. She helped, 62%. That's out of 21 votes. Very interesting. 62% of you believe that she helped, 38% believe she had knowledge of the crime. Very interesting. Very scary as well. Also, there's a new debacle going on out west pertaining to a woman and her brother have kidnapped a child and taken the child to Canada. Interference with custodial rights and visitation. And this woman obviously believes in this doomsday business. I also have that posted to my community board if you would like to have that said information. And also the 16 victims in the main shooting, their pictures and names have been posted to the YouTube queue, and it's also on my community board if you'd like to see those people who died in this tragic shooting in Maine. And also the killer is now deceased. He killed himself. My movie suggestion for tonight is Madman. It is an older movie, 40 plus years old, about 40 years old. A movie I saw when I was a kid in Chicago, and it is playing free in the YouTube queue. It's also on Pluto, but it's not a good audio of that. Luckily, I found it on YouTube, so I went and watched it from YouTube instead of Pluto, because the version on Pluto, the words aren't matching the people's lips. I almost thought it was a foreign movie, but then I went and Googled it. It's filmed here in America, but the audio is not up to par. I want to thank you all for your time. God bless all of you. Give me a few minutes. I'm going to take a brief intermission. I'll be back to talk about Mr. Kohlberger wanting the grand jury indictment thrown out, and also cameras in the courtroom. I'm going to bring you that said information here shortly. Thank you for your time. Have a wonderful weekend. Happy Halloween to those who participate in the holiday. Please be aware of your surroundings. If you see something, say something. Be a part of the solution, not the problem. Mind the children. Please keep your babies safe while trick-or-treating. Check all their candies and foods, and be very careful in allowing children to trick-or-treat on their own in said locales and places that you are not familiar with, because we do not want any harm to come to our children this Halloween season or any time. So just be mindful of allowing children to trick-or-treat on their own. Thank you for your time, everybody. You've been listening to The Vault XL, and this was Crime Vault, the Watts murders, Babysitter's interview. What was really going on in this home? Thank you.